Chapter 4. We have to go up on wiring fatigue. The motor lorries roll up after dark. We climb in. It's a warm evening, and the twilight seems like a canopy under whose shelter we feel drawn together. Even the stingy Teaden gives me a cigarette, then a light. We stand jammed in together, shoulder to shoulder. There's no room to sit, but we do not expect that. Muller is in a good mood for once. He is wearing his new boots. The engines drone, the lorries bump and rattle. The roads are worn and full of holes. We dare not show a light, so we lurch along, and we are often almost pitched out. That does not worry us, however. It can happen if it likes. A broken arm is better than a hole in the guts. And many a man would be thankful for such a chance of finding his way home again. Besides us stream the munitions columns in long files. They are making the pace, and they overtake us continuously. We joke with them, and they answer back. The wall becomes visible. It belongs to a house which lies on the side of the road. I suddenly prick up my ears. Am I deceived? Again, I hear distinctly the cackle of geese. I glance at Kaczynski. A glance from him to me. We understand one another. Cat, I hear some aspirants for the frying pan over there. He nods. It will be attended to when we come back. I have their number. Of course, Cat has their number. He knows all about every leg of goose within a radius of 15 miles. The lorries arrive at the artillery lines. The gun emplacements are camouflaged with bushes against aerial observation and look like a kind of military feast of the tabernacles. These branches might seem gay and cheerful were not cannon embowered there. The air becomes acrid with the smoke of the guns and the fog. The fumes of powder taste bitter on the tongue. The roar of the guns make our lorries stagger. The reverberation rolls raging away to the rear. Everything quakes. Our faces change imperceptibly. We are not indeed in the front line, but only in the reserves. Yet in every face can be read, this is the front. Now we are within its embrace. It is not fear. Men who have been up as often as we have become thick-skinned. Only the young recruits are agitated. Cat explains to them. That was a 12-inch. You can tell by the report. Now you'll hear the burst. But the muffled thud of the burst does not reach us. It was swallowed up in the general murmur of the front. Cat listens. There'll be a bombardment tonight. We all listen. The front is restless. The Tommies are firing already, says Kropp. The shelling can be heard distinctly. It is the English batteries to the right of our section. They're beginning an hour too soon. According to us, they start punctually at 10 o'clock. What's got them, says Muller. Their clocks must be fast. There'll be a bombardment, I tell you. I could feel it in my bones. Cat shrugs his shoulders. 3 guns open fire close beside us. The burst of flame shoots across the fog. The guns roar and boom. We shiver and are glad to think that we shall be back in the huts early in the morning. Our faces are neither paler nor more flushed than usual. They are not more tense nor more flabby, and yet they are changed. We feel that in our blood a contact has shot home. That is no figure of speech. It is fact. It is the front. The consciousness of the front. That makes this contact. The moment that the first shells whistle over and the air is rent with the explosions, there is suddenly in our veins, in our hands, in our eyes, a tense waiting, a watching, a heightening alertness, a strange sharpening of the senses. The body with one bound is in full readiness. It often seems to me, though it were the vibrating, shuddering air that with a noiseless leap strings upon us, or as though the front itself emitted an electric current which awakened unknown nerve centers. Every time it is the same. We start out for the front, plain soldiers, either cheerful or gloomy, then come the first gun emplacements, and every word of our speech has a new ring. Then, when Cat stands in front of the hut and says there will be a bombardment, that is merely his own opinion. But if he says it here, then the sentence has the sharpness of a bayonet in the moonlight. It cuts clean through the thought. It thrusts nearer and speaks to this unknown thing that is awakened in us, a dark meaning. There will be a bombardment. Perhaps it is our own inner and most secret life that shivers and falls on guard. To me, the front is a mysterious whirlpool. Though I am in still water, far away from its center, I feel the whirl of the vortex sucking me slowly, irresistibly, inescapable into itself. From the earth, from the air, sustaining forces pour into us, mostly from the earth. To no man does the earth mean so much as to the soldier. When he presses himself down upon her long and powerfully, when he buries his face and his limbs deep in her from the fear of death by shellfire, then she is his only friend, his brother, his mother. He stifles his terror, and he cries in her silence and her security. She shelters him and releases him for 10 seconds to live, to run, 10 seconds of life, receives him again and often forever. Earth, 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 earth with thy tiny folds and hollows and holes into which a man may fling himself and crouch down. In the spasm of terror, under the hailing annihilation, in the bellowing death of the explosions, O earth, thou grantest us the great resisting surge of new won life. Our being, almost utterly carried away by the fury of the storm, streams back through our hands from thee, and we, thy redeemed ones, bury ourselves in thee, and through the long minutes, in a gray mute agony of hope, bite into thee with our lips. At the sound of the first droning of the shells, we rush back, in one part of our being, 1,000 years. By the animal instinct that is awakened in us, we are led and protected. It is not conscious. It is far quicker, much more sure, less fallible than consciousness. One cannot explain it. A man is walking along without thought or heed. Suddenly he throws himself down on the ground, and a storm of fragments flies harmlessly over him. Yet he cannot remember either to have heard the shell coming or to have thought of flinging himself down. But he had not abandoned himself to the impulse. He would now be a heap of But had he not abandoned himself to the impulse, he would now be a heap of mangled flesh. It is this other, this second sight in us, that has thrown us to the ground and saved us without our knowing how. If it were not so, there would not be one man alive from Flanders to the Vosges. We march up, moody or good-tempered soldiers. We reach the zone where the front begins and become, on the instant, human animals. An indignant-looking wood receives us, or indigent-looking wood receives us. We pass by the soup kitchens. Under the cover of the wood, we climb out. The lorries turn back. They are to collect us again in the morning before dawn. Mist and the smoke of guns lie breast high over the fields. The moon is shining. Along the road, troops file. Their helmets gleam softly in the moonlight. The heads and rifles stand out above the white mist, nodding heads, rocking barrels. Farther on, the mist ends. Here the heads become figures. Coats, trousers, and boots appear out of the mist as from a milky pool. They become a column. The column marches on straight ahead. The figures resolve themselves into a block. Individuals are no longer recognizable. The dark wedge presses onward, fantastically topped by the heads and the weapons floating on the milky pool. A column, not men at all.